Hello everybody, this is your favorite poet again. To all you poetry lovers of poetry and history and just love a good literary art. I'm probably stretching the truth with me, but still, I love poetry and literary art, especially my own and others. And I want to share with you the second half. I think I read a poem about my grandmama, Ada Mae Brown, and this is a poem about my granddaddy, the house that preacher built. And I will elaborate more. Let me go into the poem. Long, long before my day, and before my mother's day, and before the streets of Magnolia was paved, and even before that last great war, before that great long road from north to south became 4 lanes. Long before all this, a house was built by a man the old folks called preacher. I never knew him. It's because I never really met him, but I knew him by the tales the others told. I knew him. The exact day and year is unknown to me. I only know it was built by him. The house that preacher built has a beautiful history, for it was the house that my mother was born in, and it was the house that old man preacher died in. It was in this house where my mother first met my father, and it was in this house that me, my 3 brothers and only sister lived, worked, cried, and played in. And at times I could remember sitting on the floor next to Grandma's bed, listening to all the stories that she said of long ago and far away. It was in this house my grandmama died. I can remember her cry out, "Oh Lord, please have mercy." I loved her and I didn't want her to die, but she was in so much pain. Time had come for her to go home. The house was left with my cousin named, the house that preacher built. My cousin closed up the house and went away, only to return a few years later. And the house that preacher built seemed lifeless and cold, like a corpse, a body without a soul. It goes to prove that time really traveled fast. For once was the present, is now the past. That was the last time I stepped foot in that house. For a year later, the house came down. The house that preacher built finally came down. And all that's left of it is a memory, a misty vision of what it was. So what survives is an old photograph of the house years later when he built it. These were some of the names that helped him build the house. And this is old man preacher. The names are right here. I think this old man preacher. And my grandmama Ada Mae Brown was standing here. And right next to preacher, holding his hand, is my mother, Bruce Williams. And I think this is Wiley, well, the names are right here. Wiley William, tall man, beloved Butler, and ask Polly, Mr. Butler, and Samuel Johnson, somewhere around there. And the little ones, little ladies, Miss Annie Beth. I can't remember which one was Annie Beth. It's been so long ago, but I think it was this one, or the one behind Granddaddy there, because she was standing in front of my grandma. And the little childrens, they're all grown now. I wasn't even born then. My mama, I think, was 6 years old. And behind them is the house that this man built with the help of these other men. These 2 men, they built that house. So, back then houses didn't have mortgages. This law, the equity was sweat, and on the overhead was taxes. On the overhead was taxes, because land back then wasn't worth, what was it, $1 an acre. $1 an acre back then, I was told, my father said, excuse me, $1 an acre. And I guess that's it. And this is the house, you know, illustrated in the poem. I call it the house that beat Preacher because he was a carpenter. He built many houses in Cocoa and in the foreign neighborhoods like Volusia County and you know, down to Indian River County, through the black communities and some white communities. Because when you was good, they didn't care to hide you. They hired you. So he built a lot of houses, and he was a preacher. He was a minister. So that's just a little bit of family history, which is a part of black history. Just like a family, you know, is part of the community. It's part of the county and part of the state. This is another version of American history. And thank y'all for putting up with me and listening. Until next time, so long.